The most dangerous enemy you'll ever face does not stand across a battlefield. It sits across a lunch table. It smiles in meetings. It claps when you succeed and secretly plots when you turn your back. Fake friends, treacherous colleagues, pretenders who wear loyalty like a mask. Society tells you to forgive, to be the bigger person, to surround yourself with positivity. But let me tell you something brutal and unpolished. Those words are lies crafted for sheep. Machiavelli understood it. Centuries ago, your downfall rarely comes from open enemies. It comes from those who appear to be allies. Think about your own life for a moment. Have you ever trusted someone with your dreams, only to watch them use that information to undermine you? Have you ever noticed a colleague who praises you in front of the boss, but the next week, strangely, the boss seems colder toward you? Have you ever caught that faint hesitation in someone's voice, the delay before they congratulate you, as though your success was an inconvenience to them? That hesitation is poison. When I first entered the corporate world, I believed what every young professional believes. Hard work wins allies, and kindness earns loyalty. But soon, reality carved its lessons into my skin. I discovered a pattern: smiles that vanished when doors closed, compliments that concealed daggers, teammates who pretended to support but were secretly competing. And here is the Machiavellian truth. It will not stop. It is the natural state of human affairs. Where power, status, or recognition exist, betrayal lurks. History screams this truth if you care to listen. Julius Caesar was not brought down by foreign kings, but by men who once feasted at his table. Brutus, Cassius, men he called friends. Napoleon's greatest threats were not always on the battlefield, but in his own court, where allies shifted allegiances the moment the winds of power changed. Churchill knew this in his bones. He once remarked that politics was more dangerous than war, because in war, you only die once. Why, then, do most people ignore this? Because it is uncomfortable. It destroys the fairy tale of friendship as eternal. Workplace loyalty is guaranteed, and colleagues as teammates. But to cling to the fairy tale is to invite disaster. To deny the nature of human ambition is to walk blind into ambush. Machiavelli offers us the only sane path. Treat relationships not as sentimental bonds, but as strategic calculations. Friends are not angels. Colleagues are not saints. They are players on the same chessboard as you, and every move they make, whether genuine or false, alters your position. The weak get played. The strong play deliberately. So here is the uncomfortable question you must ask yourself right now. How many of the people around you are truly for you, and how many are simply waiting for their chance to use you? And more importantly, what are you doing about it? Because let me make this crystal clear. Fake friends and two-faced colleagues are not just annoyances. They are obstacles to your power. They drain your energy, distort your reputation, sabotage your opportunities. Every year you ignore them, you waste precious ground in the battlefield of life. How many years can you afford to waste? How much betrayal will you tolerate before you learn the art of control? This video is not about being nice or avoiding negativity. Those are children's games. This is about equipping you with Machiavelli's war-tested strategies to identify, neutralize, and, if necessary, weaponize fake allies for your advancement. By the end of this journey, you will no longer be the victim of false smiles. You will be the strategist who turns deception into dominance. So I challenge you, right now, stop lying to yourself. Stop excusing the betrayals as misunderstandings. Stop hoping people will change. Ask yourself instead, are you prepared to step onto the battlefield with your eyes open, or will you continue to hand over your trust like a lamb waiting for slaughter? The choice is yours. And if you choose to continue, in the next section, I will expose something most self-development gurus will never admit: the personal scars of betrayal that forced me to abandon naive trust and embrace Machiavellian realism. Let me strip away the armor for a moment. Before I ever embraced Machiavelli's realism, I was naive. I thought loyalty was natural. I thought if I gave my best, others would respond with the same. That illusion cost me dearly. Years ago, in my first corporate role, I met someone I'll call Ravi. He was charming, always offering to help, always dropping lines like, "We're in this together." I believed him. I shared strategies, ideas, even mistakes with him, thinking we were building mutual trust. But here's what happened. One day, during a high-stakes presentation, Ravi unveiled my ideas as his own. Word for word, slide for slide. He didn't even bother to disguise it, and the executives clapped. They looked at him like he was a rising star. Meanwhile, I sat there, invisible, my stomach burning with the acid of betrayal. I told myself at the time, "It's okay. People see the truth eventually." But weeks turned into months. Ravi kept climbing. I kept sinking into obscurity. I learned the hardest truth of my early career. Merit does not win in a world full of deception. Strategy does. That wasn't the only time. A few years later, when I launched my first entrepreneurial project, I partnered with someone I thought was a friend. We split responsibilities. I worked late nights building systems. He was supposed to manage client relationships. What I didn't know was that he was quietly building his own version of the same business, using my templates, my connections, my work. One morning, I woke up to discover he had launched before me, with clients I had nurtured. I had been outmaneuvered in my own battlefield. The emotional toll was heavy. I remember sitting in a dark room, no lights on, asking myself, how could I have been so blind? How could I have trusted so easily? That's when I stumbled upon Machiavelli's The Prince. His words hit me like a slap. The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. Suddenly, my pain had context. Betrayal was not an accident, it was human nature. And I had been foolish to expect anything different. Think of Julius Caesar. He trusted Brutus, a man he saw as a son. But Brutus joined the conspirators, striking the most famous betrayal in history. Think of Alexander the Great. He executed Parmenion, one of his most loyal generals, the moment suspicion arose of conspiracy. These weren't acts of paranoia. They were acts of survival. Leaders who ignored treachery fell. Leaders who acted decisively endured. I realized I had two options: continue as prey or learn to think like a predator. The day I accepted that, my perspective shifted. I stopped asking, why would someone do this to me? And started asking, what does this person gain by betraying me? That single question became my shield. And yes, I still feel the sting when I recall those betrayals. The silent nights, the humiliation of being made a fool, the gut punch of realizing that people you call friends would happily step over your corpse if it meant one rung higher on the ladder. But now, I no longer see betrayal as tragedy. I see it as training. Each wound was a lesson in strategy. Each scar was a signal to harden my defenses. Now I turn to you. How many scars do you carry from similar betrayals? How many ravas have stolen your ideas, your trust, your opportunities? How many times have you rationalized it? They didn't mean it. It's not worth the fight. People will notice eventually, only to find yourself stuck while they advance. Let me be brutally honest. Those scars are not accidents. They are proof that you are in a war you refuse to acknowledge, and the longer you deny it, the deeper those wounds will cut. So here is my challenge. Write down the name of one person you suspect is not truly in your corner. Not 10 names, just one. Confront the uncomfortable thought. What if they are using you? What if every smile is camouflage? Can you bear to ask that question of yourself? In the next section, we will step out of personal pain and step into history's battlefield. I will show you how emperors, generals, and leaders understood the laws of betrayal and how their ruthless clarity can become your compass in dealing with fake friends and colleagues. Here's a truth that most people will never say out loud. Betrayal is not a glitch in the system. It is the system. And those who survive, those who rise, are the ones who study it, anticipate it, and use it to their advantage. Niccolo Machiavelli laid this out in The Prince, written in 1513, as a survival manual for rulers navigating a world where loyalty was fragile, alliances temporary, and trust a liability. His core message? Don't expect men to be good. Expect them to act out of self-interest. To rely on loyalty is to walk into battle with no armor. To rely on strategy is to march with an army behind you. Let's anchor this in history. Julius Caesar, a man who conquered Gaul and stood at the edge of transforming Rome into an empire, was not undone by foreign enemies. No, his assassins were senators who had dined with him, walked beside him, even sworn allegiance. The dagger that Brutus drove into him was not simply steel, it was the embodiment of misplaced trust. And Caesar's downfall was not that he had enemies, but that he underestimated his friends. Contrast that with Napoleon Bonaparte. He understood treachery as the natural state of politics. When confronted with wavering allies, he treated them as expendable pawns, reshuffling loyalties as quickly as he rearranged divisions on the battlefield. His philosophy was clear: trust in systems, not in sentiment. Guard your throne with intelligence networks, not warm embraces. That is why, for a time, Napoleon ruled Europe like a chess master, moving nations as if they were pieces on his board. Even Winston Churchill, centuries later, embodied this principle. He once said, "There is no such thing as permanent allies, only permanent interests." During World War II, Britain allied with Stalin's Soviet Union, a regime it had despised because survival demanded it. And once the war ended, that alliance evaporated into the cold hostility of the Iron Curtain. This is Machiavelli in action. Relationships are not friendships. They are instruments. So what does this mean for you? Sitting in your office or scrolling through your social feed, trying to navigate your own battles? It means your colleagues, your friends, even your so-called allies, are not bound to you by loyalty. They are bound to you only by utility. When you serve their interest, they stand beside you. When you no longer serve their interest, they vanish, or worse, they attack. Ask yourself, how much time have you wasted clinging to the illusion that your colleagues will protect you? How many years will you bleed in disappointment before you accept that betrayal is not the exception but the rule? Caesar ignored it and was stabbed 23 times. Napoleon expected it and built an empire. Which path are you walking? The Machiavellian framework gives you 3 weapons. Clarity, see people as they are, not as you wish them to be. Control structure, relationships to serve your interests first. And calculation, treat betrayal not as shock, but as predictable strategy. These are not theories. These are laws carved by centuries of power struggles, empires rising and falling on the blades of friends. So here is my direct challenge to you. Stop asking, "Can I trust this person?" and start asking, "What use does this person have to me, and what use do I have to them?" The first question belongs to dreamers. The second belongs to conquerors. And as we move into the next section, I will show you how this philosophy translates into evidence-based strategies, how psychology, modern research, and real-world examples confirm Machiavelli's brutal truth. Let's rip away another illusion. You don't need mystical instincts to spot a fake friend or a treacherous colleague. Modern psychology and behavioral science confirm what Machiavelli observed 500 years ago. Betrayal has patterns, and those patterns can be detected if you sharpen your eyes. Think about it. Spies are trained not to rely on gut feelings alone, but on observable cues. You too can learn to see the signs. Betrayal isn't random, it's strategic. And if you know the science, you can anticipate the stab before the knife even touches your back. Research in organizational psychology reveals a pattern. Those most likely to betray you often show microsignals long before the act itself. For instance, colleagues who consistently withhold small pieces of information, forgetting to loop you in, failing to share credit, avoiding eye contact when praise is given, are testing the waters. They are gauging whether you notice. If you don't, they escalate. What begins as minor exclusion often ends in outright sabotage. This aligns with Machiavelli's principle. The beginnings of all great disorders can be easily cured, but when they have grown, they become incurable. In other words, ignore the small tells, and you will be ambushed by the larger ones. Studies on dark triad, personalities, narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy show that these individuals thrive in competitive workplaces. They smile more, network harder, and use charm as camouflage. But when measured in long-term studies, they consistently exploit colleagues for personal gain. In other words, the nicest person at the party may be the sharpest dagger in the dark. Ask yourself, who in your life seems too smooth, too polished, always saying the right thing? History teaches us that masks are most dangerous when they shine. Take the case of Alcibiades, the Athenian statesman during the Peloponnesian War. Charismatic, eloquent, adored by the people, he convinced Athens to launch the disastrous Sicilian expedition. When accused of sacrilege, he defected to Sparta, then later to Persia, betraying each side in turn. Why did Athens trust him so blindly? Because they confused charm for loyalty. They mistook charisma for character. Sound familiar in your own workplace? So how do you deal with these modern Alcibiades, the Ravi, in your office, the colleague who smiles as they drain your credibility? Machiavelli would advise 3 steps. 1. Interrogate patterns, not words. Don't believe what they say. Watch what they repeat. Who gets credit when you contribute? Who benefits when you stay silent? Who gains when you fail? Every betrayal has a trail. Your task is to follow it. 2. Control information flow. Betrayal thrives on knowledge. The more your fake friend knows, the sharper their weapon. Restrict what you reveal. Share only what advances your own strategy. As Sun Tzu said, be extremely subtle, even to the point of formlessness. What they don't know, they can't use. Test loyalty through small risks. Give them a piece of low-stakes responsibility. Watch how they handle it. Do they share credit? Do they distort? Do they keep confidence? A traitor will always reveal themselves when tempted with small opportunities. Caesar ignored such tests. Napoleon engineered them constantly. Now pause and be brutally honest. Who around you has already failed these tests, and yet you still keep them close out of habit, fear, or misplaced hope? How many times must someone show you their disloyalty before you accept it as truth? The evidence is clear. Betrayal is measurable, predictable, and observable. What psychology proves, history validates. And yet, most people ignore the signs until it is too late. Don't be most people. In the next section, we'll build on this foundation. If this was diagnosis, the next will be prescription-specific, evidence-based tactics to not just defend against fake friends and colleagues, but to actively turn their presence into fuel for your advancement. Most people, when they realize someone is a fake friend or colleague, make one of 2 mistakes. They either cut the person off completely in a blaze of drama, or they continue tolerating the behavior while hoping it changes. Both responses are weak. Both responses cost you power. Machiavelli teaches us a third path: transform betrayal into advantage. Think of betrayal as poison. You could drink it and suffer, or you could dip your own blade into it and make it deadly against your enemies. The same fake friend who envies you, the same colleague who whispers behind your back, can become a source of leverage if you understand how to use them. Modern research in organizational strategy backs this up. Studies show that frenemies, people you maintain tense but functional relationships with, can push you to perform at a higher level, expand your access to information, and keep you sharper than uncritical allies ever could. The stress of rivalry, when managed properly, is fuel. Look at Otto von Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor of Germany. He mastered the art of using unreliable allies. Instead of demanding loyalty, he orchestrated overlapping treaties, where each ally believed they had Bismarck's exclusive commitment, when in reality, he was playing them against each other. His empire was secured not by trust, but by controlled tension. Fake friends became guard dogs against one another, each too busy watching the other to betray him outright. Or consider Joseph Stalin. Ruthless, paranoid, calculating, he rarely trusted anyone fully, but he didn't eliminate every rival immediately. Often, he kept them close, using their ambition to serve state goals until the precise moment they outlived their usefulness. Brutal? Yes. Effective? Undeniably. By the time rivals realized they had been tools, their power was already drained. So how does this apply to your office, your business, your circle? 3 strategies stand out. 1. Assign watchdog roles. Place potential betrayers in positions where they must monitor each other. When 2 colleagues you distrust are near each other, make their competition visible. They'll spend their energy outmaneuvering each other instead of undermining you. This is the art of divide and rule. 2. Feed them controlled information. Don't cut them off entirely. Weaponize them as carriers of the narrative you choose. Leak half-truths or test data and watch how it spreads. Their gossip becomes your intelligence network. Machiavelli himself advised rulers to use rumor as a tool of governance. 3. Redirect their ambition. Most betrayal comes from envy, so channel that envy into goals that serve you. Give them projects that advance your mission but keep them too occupied to sabotage. This way, their hunger becomes your labor force. Harvard research on workplace dynamics shows that controlled rivalries often improve organizational outcomes. When rivals are forced into structured cooperation, performance increases. But when rivalry is left unmanaged, sabotage flourishes. Translation: you don't remove fake colleagues, you manage them like volatile assets. Here's the key: you must remain unemotional. Too many people respond to betrayal with anger, revenge, or despair. That's wasted energy. The Machiavellian path is colder. Calculate, observe, repurpose. Do not cry about poison. Distill it into medicine or weapon. Think right now of the one person who frustrates you most in your circle, the one whose smile you distrust. Ask yourself, how could I make their ambition serve me? How could I place them where their energy benefits me rather than harms me? Are you the type who lets enemies roam free, or the type who turns enemies into unwitting soldiers? We've now moved beyond defense into active control, but even with strategy, you will face resistance from within yourself, from your environment, from the betrayers themselves. In the next section, we'll tackle the brutal truth of overcoming obstacles and resistance, how to stay sharp when doubt, fear, and pressure threaten to break your resolve. Here's the paradox of power. The moment you begin applying Machiavellian principles, the world will resist you. Not just your rivals, not just your fake friends. The resistance will come from inside you, from your conditioning, from the soft voice that says, don't be harsh, don't be cold, don't be calculating, just trust, just forgive. That voice is the ghost of your old self, the sheep inside you that was trained by society to walk happily toward the slaughterhouse. When I first began adopting these principles, I felt guilt, real guilt. I thought, am I becoming heartless? Am I betraying who I am by seeing people as tools instead of friends? That guilt almost pulled me back into weakness. Almost. But then I remembered the nights of humiliation, the stolen opportunities, the laughter behind closed doors when my so-called friends had used me. And I realized the true betrayal was not my newfound clarity. The true betrayal would have been betraying myself by continuing to live blind. Ask yourself, How many times have you silenced your instincts because you were afraid of being called paranoid? How many times have you swallowed anger because you were told it's not worth it? Every time you do, you weaken your armor. Fake friends won't go quietly either. The moment they sense you're no longer easy prey, they'll react. They'll say, "You've changed." They'll accuse you of being difficult, selfish, or arrogant. This is their strategy. If they can't exploit you with flattery, they'll attempt to shame you back into obedience. History proves this pattern. When Caesar began consolidating power, senators accused him of arrogance, of abandoning the republic's values. But those cries were not born of principle, they were born of fear. They feared losing their influence over him. When Churchill refused to appease Hitler, his colleagues called him reckless, dangerous, war-hungry. Yet, history vindicated him as the only one willing to see the threat clearly. Another obstacle is fatigue. It is exhausting to remain vigilant, to constantly test, calculate, and observe. You may ask yourself, do I really want to live like this on guard all the time? But let me remind you, life is a battlefield whether you admit it or not. The soldier who puts down his weapon because it feels heavy does not live longer, he dies sooner. Yes, vigilance requires energy, but betrayal extracts far more. Would you rather spend energy on prevention or on repairing the wreckage of being blindsided? How do you overcome these obstacles? 3 ways. 1. Reframe guilt into duty. Instead of asking, "Am I being too cold?" ask, "Am I protecting my future self from unnecessary pain?" Guarding yourself is not cruelty. It is loyalty to your own destiny. 2. Anticipate pushback. Expect the accusations of arrogance, selfishness, paranoia. When they come, you'll already know. This is proof you've broken their control. Treat their words as confirmation of progress, not condemnation. 3. Build mental rituals. Soldiers maintain routines, cleaning weapons, drilling tactics to sustain readiness. You must do the same. Weekly reflection. Who showed signs of loyalty? Who showed cracks? Who gained from my silence? This ritual keeps your mind sharp without drowning in paranoia. I recall a moment when a colleague confronted me. "You're not as open as you used to be. You've built walls." For a second, the old guilt tried to return. But then I asked myself, when I was open, what did it cost me? The answer? Too much. I smiled and replied, "Yes, I've built walls, but only because I learned who tries to climb over them." That silence afterward told me everything. Now I ask you, which obstacle hits you hardest? Is it guilt? Is it the fear of being judged? Is it the fatigue of vigilance? Which one keeps pulling you back into weakness? And more importantly, are you ready to kill that obstacle before it kills your future? Surviving betrayal is one thing. Dominating despite betrayal, that's another level entirely. By this point, you've accepted the battlefield, you've spotted the enemy, and you've endured the resistance. Now it's time to implement advanced Machiavellian tactics. Not just defense, not just survival, but control. Control of perception, control of power, control of outcomes. So how do you translate this into your workplace or circle today? 3 advanced tools stand out. 1. The intelligence web. Never rely on one source of truth. Build a network of informants, subtle, non-obvious allies, who tell you what others are saying when you're not in the room. This doesn't require espionage. It requires listening carefully when people vent, joke, or gossip. Who rolls their eyes when your name comes up? Who pretends neutrality but carries whispers? An intelligence web transforms hearsay into advantage. 2. The calculated gift. Humans are slaves to reciprocity. A well-placed favor, even to someone you don't trust, can create psychological debt. You don't need them to love you. You need them to hesitate before crossing you. Caesar won early loyalty by granting land to soldiers. Churchill secured alliances with timely concessions. You can do the same. Offer resources, information, or opportunities in small doses. Not to win loyalty, but to buy hesitation. 3. The power of scarcity. Stop being always available. Scarcity creates demand. When your presence is rare, your value multiplies. Fake friends cannot weaponize what they cannot access. In meetings, speak less but sharper. Withhold certain insights until the moment they matter most. Make others feel the chill of your absence, and they will cling tighter when you appear. Most people who watch this type of content nod along, feel a surge of power, then return to the same habits. They go back to oversharing with fake friends. They go back to expecting loyalty in a world where loyalty doesn't exist. They go back to being Caesar at the Senate steps, trusting Brutus until the blade pierces their ribs. But you cannot afford that. Time is running out. Every day you ignore betrayal is another day you bleed opportunities. Every week you fail to act is another week someone else builds power from your blindness. Every year you delay is another year of being outmaneuvered by weaker but more cunning rivals. How many years will you waste before you step into your rightful role as strategist? Here is your final challenge. 1. Identify the Brutus in your life. One person. Not a vague toxic energy, not a shadowy suspicion, one real name. Write it down. This is your battlefield opponent. 2. Apply the 3 weapons. Clarity. Stop lying to yourself about who they are. Strip away the mask. See the betrayal for what it island. Control. Decide exactly what they will and will not know, what they will and will not influence. Calculation. Place them in a position where their ambition serves you, or remove them entirely when the time is right. 3. Commit to scarcity. From this day forward, stop being universally accessible. Every interaction, every piece of information, every opportunity you share must be deliberate. Let them feel the shift. Let them wonder. Let them chase. When Alexander the Great faced betrayal within his ranks, he didn't wallow. He acted decisively. Parmenion, his once trusted general, was executed when suspicion of conspiracy arose. Harsh? Yes. But necessary for the stability of the empire. When Churchill faced opposition in his own parliament, he didn't retreat into silence. He spoke with fire, daring his rivals to match his courage. And when Machiavelli himself wrote The Prince, it wasn't to comfort rulers, it was to warn them, survive, or be destroyed. You stand in that same position now. Maybe not on the scale of empires or wars, but in the scale of your own destiny. Your career, your reputation, your legacy. Will you allow it to be dictated by smiling liars, or will you take command of your battlefield? I can't make this easier for you. I can only hand you the blade. I remember the first time I acted decisively. I identified my Brutus. I stripped him of access, redirected his ambition, and watched as his attempts to undermine me crumbled into dust. That moment changed everything, not because he was gone, but because I had chosen clarity over illusion. For the first time, I was no longer prey. I was predator, and predators don't ask permission, they take. So, here it is. Are you the type of person who will continue living under the illusion of loyalty, bleeding from invisible daggers? Or are you the type of person who steps forward, blade in hand, ready to command your circle, your workplace, your destiny? The world will not wait for you. Betrayers are plotting even now. Rivals are scheming even now. The question is, will you finally act? Because inaction is not neutrality. Inaction is betrayal of yourself. Choose today.